Sonoran Desert, it's James Out West.
Good evening, Phoenix and friends. Let me talk to you. James Out West on this nice and sunny May 6, 2024 in the Valley. As always, KDUS 1060 in studio. Pat the Stat Guy, Aaron on the side of the glass. I saw Flash leave earlier. Good to see him as always. We were out last week, and usually we'll go around the room and do all that stuff. Pat will tell us what's going on today. Tell us what we're going to talk about, dude.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Anthony Edwards for the next hour. No, I'm just kidding. I honestly, I probably could talk about Anthony Edwards for the next hour, but it's not going to be all Ant in the NBA. We do have a little bit of NFL to start the show, some draft reactions because we were out last week, some updates, general updates.
Yes,
then
sir.
we're going to get into the NBA playoffs, do a round one wrap up, talk about the first couple games of round two. Yeah, I think, obviously Denver, Minnesota, some of these other ones. And then we're going to get into, I think we will. We'll probably talk about Ant, a good amount of Ant and Denver and the Michael Jordan comparisons, the Kobe Bryant comparisons, the LeBron James comparisons, all those things. And then we'll talk a little more Suns and where do the Suns go from here? Do they blow it up? Do they run it back? What do they do? So that'll be our show.
All right, well, that's going to be a lot to talk about. All right, so let's jump into the NFL because obviously that's usually what the heaviest thing is, and we're in the leanest times, but we still got info.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were out, so we didn't get to, instantly react to the draft, which is kind of nice because now that it's simmered down, kind of get to see who got what and where they're at. Locally, I'm glad that the Cardinals stayed where they were at and went and got Marvin Harrison Jr. Like they didn't. They did. I mean, I'm sure there was probably trade potential there, but when you have a caliber player like that on the board available to you in a position of need with a guy like Kyler Murray who can make plays off script, you want a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
So I'm glad that they did that. Aaron, I did want to ask you about that, sir. What was your take on them taking Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I mean, I think it's the right pick. I mean, similar to what you're saying, like, yes, could you have gone more draft pick or more draft capitals? Yes, but I honestly think that you need to go and grab a player that could be a star and has a lot of potential.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he seems like he's a different cat. Like, there is a thing he hasn't signed with the NFLPA. Said that he will, but he hasn't. And then in the meantime, signed a deal with Fanatics, like a memorabilia deal and all these things. So he's kind of going outside of the the normal path of players when it comes to this. But this is all new territory, too, with all the new money, with streaming and NILs and that whole situation. There's a lot that's gone on, and he's kind of like, all right, I'm kind of past that now. We're on to the next venture. He understands, like, the business aspect of it, just watching his dad do what he's done for all those years and being around it, knowing, hey, I want to cut a path for me. Here's how I want to go about this. Talking to Donnie D from Donnie Druin from Sports Illustrated Fan Nation about it. He was excited for them as well, and he is giving away a jersey once they do become available because that promise was made about 4 months ago. If they drafted, he'd give one away, but you can't get one yet. So Donnie's going to be the first one on pre-order.
I mean, I think that was the right move. I think he is the next big wide receiver. It seems like it, maybe the next Justin Jefferson, the next Jamar Chase, all these guys who have come in and had success right away. And that's what the Cardinals are hoping for. And with Kyler Murray, I think they can do it. And they looked really good at the end of the season. They started to win some games when Kyler came back. And, I think Gannon's, they were all buying into the culture. So, it could be exciting season for the Cardinals. I know my brother last year got rid of his season tickets. This year he's getting them back. Maybe that's why.
That is why. So he's excited for them to be good again.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a lull, but when with James Conner, they have a good roster, they have a good team. They could make some noise. I'm excited to watch this happen here. I'm excited for the Valley to get a guy like this. Obviously having Larry all those years and having a guy like a first ballot Hall of Famer. No, I'm not putting that on this kid yet, but like in the sense of the talent possibilities of a kid, and like you said, these guys come in right away.
Well,
Justin Jefferson came in right away. There's a bunch of them that came in right away.
I don't want to say I feel bad for him, but he is coming in to be the number one wide receiver right away. So there is pressure there.
Yeah.
But he's got the talent, right?
Yes.
And his dad, coaching him all this time. I think it's very realistic that he could be the next one of those guys. So
now it was interesting. We thought, there was all this talk that the Minnesota Vikings were going to trade up and to go get J.J. McCarthy. They had inquired to trade up with 3, with 4, with 5. With 5, it wasn't so much to go up and get J.J. McCarthy. It was, we would like to trade to get Justin Herbert from you with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. And obviously that's going to be a no. But, yeah, you have to ask because, you have to ask. Watching them not have to We talked about it for 3 weeks. It seemed like every time we talked about the Vikings, Pat, that we just, if that's our guy, we don't want to see them give up 3 first-round picks for J.J. McCarthy. Like, if the guy's going to be there for you, then awesome, fantastic. He should be what you want in a quarterback. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that. I'm saying that's what people are saying. Having Michael Penix Jr. be the wild card going to 8 in Atlanta, which I'll let you touch upon because you found some similarities with some things. Mm-hmm. But that was the one thing that, to me, I was like, if that guy was at 11, I'm not sure they'd take J.J. McCarthy.
Right.
I think they're a Penix guy. But the fact that happened, it was like, oh, man, the guy we really kind of is going to be there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talk about this potential of trading for Justin Herbert. Like, I thought that, I mean, I heard some rumblings of that as well. But I think the one trade that they did they offered New England for the number, 3? Was that 3? And to get Drake May, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were definitely interested in Drake May. Sounds like more than J.J. McCarthy because they were willing to give up the 2 first-round picks, which I'm glad New England turned down.
Yes.
Right? So they were obviously, sounds like they were valued Drake May a little more than J.J. I'm not talking down on J.J. I honestly think, him, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the GM and of Kwesi and all them, like they have a good relationship with the Vikings, him and JJ, and like
right.
I think they did a great job of keeping him in the loop and talking to him throughout the thing, throughout the whole process. But they were obviously interested in Drake May, right? And then there was rumors that they were really interested in Michael Penix, and that's why Atlanta moved in front of the Vikings to get him, right? And now Atlanta has stolen Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix from the Vikings. Like that's what kind of people were saying after that, and like maybe it's true, and maybe the Vikings were interested in Penix, but they ended up trading up one spot, didn't have to give up a first-round pick. They moved up one spot to 10 to get JJ, who is somebody that they were obviously interested in very early on, and everyone was saying they were going to trade up to 2, 3, 4 to get him. Just didn't happen. Very happy. Proved to me that no one knows anything.
Yeah. Every year, no one knows anything. That Atlanta pick was a wild one in the sense of we found out today, according to reports, and everything's according to reports, that Minnesota made Kirk Cousins aware that they were going to draft a young quarterback for the future, and that was one of the reasons why he opted to go play somewhere else, to only have a team do the same thing that he left a team he was with for. Yeah. Like, well, not all of it, but some of it. So it's like now he's $100 million guaranteed. He's going to play probably all of this season, part of next year. If anything, to me, he has, wildly enough, he has trade value in the sense of after this season, if Michael Penix is ready, and I don't want to hear that, people, they have no leverage. If Kirk Cousins is still Kirk Cousins, 4,000 and, 30 touchdowns and low turnovers, he can go to a contender. You can get a first-round pick for him. Mm-hmm. He's still going to get his money regardless if you think Michael Penix will be ready. Because you can't have a guy that you drafted that you expect to be that successful. You can't keep him off the field. His talent is too good.
Yeah, and Kirk, he probably went into this contract, we're talking about his contract early, like there's outs. I don't know if it's for the team or for him or whoever, within a couple of years, right? And but Kirk probably went into this planning to play all 4 seasons, play the contract out, right? And there was all these stats about if he plays it out, how much more money he made than Tom Brady and all these things, right? Like he was planning to play it out. Right now you look at them getting Penix and you've got to think he's probably out of there in 2 years, right? And even him, like that's what he's got to be thinking, like, oh, maybe I won't play out all 4 years. So, it's interesting. And Michael Penix, while Atlanta might be doing kind of the Jordan Love thing and they make it sound like, oh, when Kirk's done, Penix will move in. Like, you always make fun of his age. When Kirk's done, Michael Penix will be 35 years old, right? Like, so that's not really what they're doing. They're not waiting Kirk out. Kirk's going to play 2 years, 3 years tops, and then it's Michael Penix time.
And then real quick, dude, because this popped off over the weekend, if the Texans are like Super Bowl contenders, J.J. Watt said that if DeMeco Ryans gave him the call and called him, it better be worth it, but he would show up. He told him that last season. He said, I'm giving him that this season. I've been training hard. That's what he's going to do, so it's really interesting. All right, so on the other side of the break, we're going to jump into the NBA playoffs because a lot's going on. We just had a game end right now. We got another game starting. You guys are listening to James Out West on KDUS Phoenix, home of the Dan Patrick Show, Rich Eisen, and, of course, us, James Out West and Pat, the stat guy. Make sure you guys come on back.
Welcome back to James Out West on KDUS 1060.
Thank you, CJ. Thanks for hanging out with us into the night. James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, KDUS 1060 Phoenix. There's a game 1 of the second round of the books. You had the New York Knicks battling it out with the Indiana Pacers and squeaking one out with a game 1 victory. And they had some back and forth in that game. It was pretty good. Brunson had good. DiVincenzo out there hitting big buckets and in the big times to get the victory, which we can go into. But real quick, so obviously first round's over. We had, second round started on Sunday. We got some games going tonight. And the only game that went to a Game 7 the first round was Cleveland-Orlando, which I don't think people knew that series was even happening because it was on NBA TV every game.
Okay.
I think only Game 7 and maybe Game 6, but Game 7 might have been the only one on ESPN or TNT.
Yeah. Outside of Ohio. Nobody knew. Yeah.
So nobody was paying attention to it. But I will tell you this, that watching that game, that young Orlando Magic team, I understand why they won 48 games. I get it, watching Paolo Banchero. And trust me, I worked hard on getting his name right, bro, because I was calling him Pablo Banchero.
Okay.
And that was not me being funny. It was me just being dumb. And then realizing, no, that's not how it sounds. He is ridiculous. I thought he was like 6'6". No, the guy's like 6'10". He's got shoulders for days. He plays big. He can shoot. He's got an actual jump shot. The kid's good. They got the Wagner brothers, not the Wagner group. It's a different thing. But the Wagner brothers, I didn't know there was two of them.
Right.
Franz and Bronze or Franz and Hans or Franz and Mons, whatever it is. Either way, they're a problem.
Yeah.
And if they end up, I hear there's, talks, they're going to go spend a lot of money to get Klay Thompson come down there and be a shooter for him.
Okay.
So, they may have a little bit in them that they don't. All I'm saying is that Paolo's really good, and it's exciting to watch him play.
Yeah.
He gave those Cavaliers team, who is a better team by far on paper and through the season, all the fits.
Right. And the stat, the metric or whatever that is most impressive as we talk about Anthony Edwards only being 22, Paolo, as you say, because I was calling him Pablo all year, but Paolo he's 21.
That's wild.
Right. He's not 22 until November 12th.
No, he still has kid acne.
Yeah, that's funny. Child acne. All right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, to be honest, sometimes, I've had people in my comments making some of these videos goes like, why is he calling him a kid? I'm like, well, some of them are kids. When you're 21, 22, 24, to me, you're a kid. And yeah, so either way, it's amazing. Yeah, like you said, he's 6'10". He's got broad shoulders. He's a baller, and he's 21 years old.
Yeah. So I've been trying to, in my vocabulary, not like Papa John's trying to get words out of my vocabulary, but like me trying to figure out, you got that. Yeah, but for me, it was more of saying that young man.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get out of saying kid because of that reason. I'm trying to grow.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's like people shouldn't be offended by everything. But I do try to do that, he's a young, grown man, young man, whatever. Trying to put some respect on it because I don't mean any harm by it. But that's what people take out of it.
I wasn't trying to go too deep into that kind of part of the conversation, but the point is this 21-year-old kid is balling out. What'd you say? How many wins did they have?
They're 48.
Right, and he's the star of the team, right? So, him and Ant and Wemby, like these young kids, man, they're the future.
Well, let's talk about – so they had 48 wins. Cavs had 49 on the season. The Suns had 49 on the season. I mean, and we were celebrating that at the press conference. The team was. The ownership team was celebrating that to an extent. And it is an accomplishment. It's a hard league to win games in, and I understand that. And with all the injuries, I get it. But at the same time, you guys won 49 games. This team won 49 games. They're moved on to the second round. You guys did not. The team of 47 games went to 7 games, didn't get swept, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it wasn't they didn't get drummed.
Right.
So it's interesting to me just kind of some of the similarities because now, and we're going to get in the second round, but, kind of where do the Suns go? Now we've had a week and a half. They've done their press conferences. Is Frank still here? Yes. As of now, are they going to run it back?
Yeah, I don't want to glaze through this. This is a big topic, right? Like, where do the Suns go? Because there is, there's a lot of issues, right? And I think a lot of us have actually, we've pinpointed the main issues, and one of them is leadership, right? So Frank Vogel, in a lot of ways, seems like he's got to go because, right now, everyone says the players say the leader is Frank Vogel, right? And Frank Vogel says the leaders are the big three, the players, right? So no one's agreeing on who the leader is. In my mind, I was always telling you I thought Bradley Beal and KD need to step up or, because Booker hasn't shown that he was willing to step up or that he, it's always been so hard to be like, who's the leader, who should be the leader, and then when you're having that issue, then it's the coach. And it should be the coach and culture, right? You see it with the Cardinals, like how culture can really change things. And when people buy into the coach's culture, like it can really turn things around.
Absolutely.
And so I think Frank has to go. I think they need more athleticism. I think you need to move KD to small forward. He's not a power forward. His size and length is not an advantage at power forward. It's an advantage at small forward, right? They need an athletic power forward, and they need a real point guard. And Bradley Beal has to do what Russell Westbrook did and move to the bench and be effective off the bench. For me, that's the solve.
So for me,
if you're keeping these guys.
I was going to say, and I think they kind of have to keep these guys. They're kind of wrapped up with this team that they have for the most part. There might be some league minimum guys they can move,
Yeah,
but
because they're paid Grayson.
And there's a lot of guys that they're not allowed to trade. They're not allowed to do things that Brian Windhorst from ESPN was talking about specifically. Like, they're kind of stuck to an extent. And for me, like, I like Frank Vogel. I think they all said this afterwards. So at the end of the season, they got together and you go down and you get to meet with them at the practice facility, and they answer like end of season questions essentially. And they all mentioned, Book mentioned it right after the game that you were at, the final game of the season, and then they talked about it at the practice. It was communication, the little things, the finer points, the communication. And part of that is the leadership. And like you said, don't want to step on any toes. Those toes were who? Devin Booker's. Well, somebody's got to step up. And I'm gonna play a game here with you real quick. I'm gonna name teams in the playoffs, and you're gonna tell me. I'm just gonna name and you're gonna tell me who's the leader. Okay,
sure.
Who's the leader? Dallas Mavericks.
Oh man, I mean, yeah,
Luka.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no,
Right?
like I'm thinking personalities. Like
Okay.
maybe Kyrie in the locker room is somehow the leader. But yeah, Luka. Okay.
New York Knicks.
Brunson.
Okay. Boston Celtics.
Freaking now you got me blanking on names.
Jaylen Brown.
You think Jalen?
No,
Brown?
no, sorry, the other one.
Oh my God.
Tatum. Jason
Yeah,
Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
All right. Indiana Pacers. They're in.
Halliburton. Yeah.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. See where I'm going with this?
Yeah. It's always this. It's
No,
this
you
stuff,
know who it is.
right? Like it's
With the
star,
Suns,
yeah.
you don't. And with the Minnesota Timberwolves, you can't say Ant yet, but it's probably Mike Conley, to be honest.
Sure.
But from a standpoint of like floor general and type like that, but like we can know who their leader is. With the Suns, you don't, and that is the issue. I don't know. Getting rid of Frank's the issue. I mean, it seems like it was like, oh, there has to have something. It's almost like something has to happen, so he's the guy that has to fall on the sword. Maybe not, because who put together the roster and they swung, and maybe it just didn't work out. So if there's some pieces you can try to move, or you can get some young, hungry guys, maybe there's some different staff. Was this all Frank's staff? No, I think he inherited a few guys that they kept around from Monty's staff. So maybe I heard some talk, so maybe there's a revamp around him. But maybe they give Frank another term because, I mean, who are you going to go out and get to replace him? You going to go hire Darvin Ham for it? Are you going to go get Adrian Griffin, who was fired by the Milwaukee Bucks, for Doc Rivers? Who's out? Like, who's out there that you're going to go get that's a better piece to lead a championship than Frank Vogel currently? And I'm not asking you to answer that. I'm just saying,
Right.
I don't know that there is there. So why would you move?
Right.
If you don't have to make that decision.
To be honest, I think Vogel's gone. Like, you just have to. They need a culture change. These guys know how to play basketball, right? They need toughness. I was joking with you that they need David Goggins, right? Like, it'd be great. I mean, like, they need that. Like, it'd be, hey, you get a lot of content, you know,
Yes,
just
you would.
yelling
Yes,
at the
you would.
sun, yelling at Kevin Durant in the locker room every game. Just, you got to get out there. Like, for real, though. Like, dude, like, how do Frank Vogel could not motivate these guys to win one game in there. Like, I would have. Man, I was ready to go in there in Game 4 and give them a speech, my best David Goggins impression. But like, yeah, like they need someone who's going to fire them up, make them tougher, right? Because these other teams, they're more athletic. You know, they are a little tougher. They have the continuity, but they also have like an offensive scheme and an offensive game plan. You know, the other guy I was joking with was, and it's not even a joke, is go get Luke Murray from UConn. Go take some of these established people from college and bring them in. Again, you've got the vets who know how to play basketball. Kevin Durant, you know, when Frank Vogel was with the Lakers, was Frank Vogel the head coach or was it LeBron James?
Well, we saw that it didn't work if it was LeBron James now in the last couple seasons.
I'm just saying, though, like, LeBron James's basketball knowledge, when you have a Kevin Durant, you have a Devin Booker, you know, like, I think bringing in a Luke Murray from college, and a guy who's now won 2 championships, with UConn, like bring in somebody, with that kind of, why not? I get what you're saying. Like, you don't want Darvin Ham, some of these guys with the NBA experience, like they might not necessarily be that appealing right now. And like, who was the one you said everybody wanted? You said
Adrian Griffin?
no. Never mind.
No.
Anyways, no, the freaking Clippers coach, dude.
Ty Lue.
Yeah, Ty Lue was like who everybody in Phoenix and everybody with the Suns seems to want Ty Lue, right? Like, of course, the Clippers want him too. But like, if it's not going to be Ty Lue, I don't know who the guy is. So maybe you do look in the college ranks or whatever. But the team has to get tougher. And again, they have like zero trade value.
Yeah.
Right? You've got a first-round pick. You've got Kevin Durant, who you could probably trade right now, and then you've got, the gorilla. Does the gorilla have trade value? That's what, for real. Like, I don't know what value they have. They got the best mascot in the game, and that's about it.
No, it's very true. Well, I mean, it's evident. Rebounding was an issue in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, it was blatant. And like you said, having KD at the 4 is a disadvantage, not an advantage like he would be at the 3.
Yeah.
So there are things that they need to do. Maybe development. Some of these guys that are on the bench that you don't know why aren't playing more. Like you said, every time we see Bol play, and I'm not saying he's the answer, but I'm saying like every time you see him play, he shows flashes that he could play more if you get more minutes.
Yeah. That's
so
why
we don't see what
also
happens in
another
practice.
reason why Vogel needs to go. Like, why was he playing 7-8 guys every game, and guys that we saw, even Anthony Edwards at the end in the interview, he goes, Drew Eubanks didn't play? Like, right,
Yeah.
him and Cat were literally like, hey, that's not for us to decide. Like
Yeah, they walked it back. Yeah, hey.
for real, dude. Right? I mean, so yeah, I don't know. The Suns have a lot to change, and I think if they're gonna fix it, the simplest change is a coaching change.
Yep. Or they're not going to fix anything and they make a change next year, saying, "Hey, we stood pat and we tried our best with what we had." And
Right,
we,
look, as much
it
as
kind of
everyone
sounds like that's what they're going to do.
as much as everyone talks about the importance of continuity, I don't think that's the issue here. It's not just continuity. They have to switch things up. Kevin Durant doesn't like being forced to the corner. There's a lot of issues.
Yeah, same with the Lakers. They're moving on from Darvin Ham. What's going to happen? We don't know. I think maybe that whole JJ and LeBron podcast might have just been feeling out to see if he
I've
will
heard
work
that.
with JJ.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that very well could be the case. Probably not, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe LeBron's going to be player coach like Bill Russell. Either way, on this side of the break, we're going to dive into the second round matchups. Denver, Minnesota, OKC, Dallas, Boston, Cleveland. We got all of them. You're listening to KDUS 1060 Phoenix, home of your ASU baseball as always. And, of course, your Las Vegas Raiders. Shout out Bowers.
Welcome back to James Out West on KDUS 1060.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us into the night. James out west, Pat the Stat Guy, Aaron on the side of the glass. NBA basketball going on behind us. We've got Minnesota, Denver, first quarters rounding down. Minnesota's up.
Yeah, Ant's going to take the
Ant
last
with
shot
the ball.
here. Let's
I mean,
see.
it's incredible. And out of bounds. They could
it's out of
keep it.
bounds.
Either way. All right, so
28-20.
Real
Yeah.
quick before we dive into the rest of these games, they announced the Rookie of the Year today, NBA, and it was unanimously Wemby, of course. We've got the Defensive Player of the Year being announced tomorrow. We've got the MVP being announced on Wednesday. What? And then Thursday they're announcing the Social Justice Champion. I'm assuming like Community Service Award of some sort. So, but the big three coming out of there: the Rookie of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, and MVP. We kind of talked about these earlier. Can Wemby, follow up tomorrow with the Defensive Player of the Year?
That's going to Rudy.
That's going to Rudy.
He's the best defender on the best defensive team in the league.
Okay. There you go. Fair enough. Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this real quick. Well, I want to start with Boston, Cleveland, because there's so much to talk about with Denver, Minnesota. So I want to get into this real quick. In the last two seasons, with Donovan Mitchell being in Cleveland, he's played Boston 6 times. They're 3-3. He scored 40 plus in 3 of those games. In the other games, he had 30 plus. They're always close. Boston's favorite, dude, they're minus 1,800 to win the series. Minus 1,800 to win the series. Like, the Cavs are an incredibly deep underdog in this, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But they play Boston tough. Boston has lost, granted, they only lost 14 games this season, regular season. It's unbelievable. But
Right.
in that, they lost a couple of games where they led by 20 and 30 points.
Right.
So if, and we saw it, we've seen in the playoffs, teams come back from 10, 20, 25 and win games. So it's those back in the day of, a team's up by 15, the game is a wrap with 2 or 3 minutes. That's not the case anymore, and it hasn't been.
Yeah.
So to me, this is, yes, Boston should be the favorite. They're the favorite to win the championship, I believe, especially out of the East. But, Boston won 2 of the 3. Every game was close. The year before, Cleveland won 3 of the 4, and all 3 of those were in overtime. So these teams know each other because the rosters are relatively the same. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To me, it's probably going to go 5, 6 games. I mean, it could go 7. Of course it could. But, I mean, it really should land more towards Boston. But don't count Cleveland out. I will say this real quick, and I'll let you go on this. Donovan Mitchell, amazing watching him play. But at the same time, all the other players on the floor think so as well because they just stand around. Nobody helps. He just ends up going one-on-one. And when they're dropping, that's great. That's how they lose a lot of games, too, because he's playing hero ball. And I don't know if you don't trust these other guys that have shown they can hit clutch jumpers, or he just thinks he's the best option, which is kind of that Kobe factor and all of that. But for a guy that claims and potentially doesn't want to be in that city, he wants to put it all on his shoulders, bro, trust your team at the end. Then you can say, hey, we didn't make it because, like, give yourself an out versus no. The out is that you're selfish, and it's on you that we didn't move forward.
Right.
Like he said, oh, I'm tired. I didn't want to go home. Is it because you're not coming back?
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
funny.
So,
Yeah.
and I do love the way he plays. And he plays with all heart. He does. But
Right.
sometimes it's too much ball. It's
Yeah,
too
you
much
brought him
that
in to
hero
be the
ball.
star, but he's like you said. I've not watched a lot of Cavs basketball. I did not get sold on the Cavs Magic series, so I did not watch a lot.
Nobody
of that.
did. That's why it was on
Yeah.
NBA TV and the Speed Network.
Yeah, but you know what? To be honest, I've learned lately, even though I did predict the Knicks to beat the Pacers, but I think Knicks fans just got me hyped up after that win in Philly. But either way, I've learned to not really make predictions until, after. I think maybe after game 2. I know they all have this whole saying like, a series hasn't started until the home team's lost. Sure, fine. After game 2, like for Denver, Minnesota, everyone's like, oh, Minnesota's going to win. Denver's out. It's Minnesota. Minnesota's going to win the West. Like their odds change
Right.
so much. I want to see how Denver adjusts in game 2. And until I see how Denver adjusts to Minnesota after game, then I'll maybe start making some predictions and start, throwing some wild stuff out there. But until I've seen how they adjust, so like I'm not going to count the Cavs out against Boston. Like you said, they seem to have success against them in the regular season. Again, didn't watch a lot of Cavs, but you can't count on that stuff. Everybody went in saying the Suns were the worst matchup that the Timberwolves could ask for and the best matchup that the Suns could ask for, and look where they are.
Absolutely.
So I will wait until I've watched 2 games in that series to make a prediction.
And I understand that. And you're right. And what's funny is everybody else is counting out the Cavs in the sense of when they showed the odds to win the Eastern Conference, they didn't have the Cavs listed.
Yeah. No,
They're still in the playoffs. They didn't have them listed. They're like, well, there's just there's no way they're getting past Boston. Everybody thinks that Boston's just going to sweep them. Like, that's dangerous because if they all feel that way, the players feel that way.
Yeah. Well,
Like, you don't want it to be, but I feel like, there's always a chance. And you're right. Let's watch a couple of games before we make any predictions on
but
that
still,
series. Same with this. If they win here, if Minnesota wins, they're up 11, by the way. If Minnesota wins this game, I heard on the radio today, I was listening to JT the Brick out of Vegas, and he had somebody on. They were talking about, if they win today, it's a sweep. No, you
call
can't
it a
say
sweep.
that.
I will say it's extremely hard to come back from down 0-2, going back to Minnesota and Ant's killer instinct and the team that they have around him. It's going to be very tough for Denver, but the idea of a sweep, I'll wait to say that. If they go down 0-3 and got their butt kicked in game 3 and someone else got injured, then maybe I'll start bringing out the broom, but no, not yet.
I agree. And then we obviously the New York Knicks and Indianapolis Pacers or Indiana Pacers, whatever you want to call it. I've been messing that up all day today for some reason. Either way. Had their game 1, good game. Yeah. Obviously it's over, so they're moving on. It's not Reggie Miller, Pat Ewing, battling it out. It's a different, it's not that, but the same fans.
Yeah.
Howard Stern's still there. Spike Lee's still there. Ben Stiller's still there. The same people that watched that happen are watching it now. Reggie Miller probably is too, because I think he's calling the game.
Yeah.
So that, again, we're kind of being over here on the West, we're kind of more dialed in with what's going on in the Western Conference. And frankly, there's not anything exciting on the East. Like Boston, Cleveland's not really exciting. The Knicks, Indiana Pacers, it's exciting for them like regionally. But from for us,
dude,
would you rather? I mean, are we kidding me? Minnesota, Denver? Like,
right.
This is an incredible series. You got just star power.
Yeah.
And we're over there talking about, I don't know. It's different. The West is so stacked.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I thought the Clippers early on in the season, they were my pick to be champions, and they're out in the West. Like, the West is definitely way more interesting. In the round 1, I was definitely more tuned into those series, and, I was not interested in Cavs Magic. I wasn't really interested in the Pacers versus a Bucks team without Giannis. Like, I don't know. Like, it was hard to sell me on those games. So, yeah, and I was telling you when we walked in here that the teams I am least familiar with in the playoffs were the Pacers and the Magic. Like, I know, 2 players on each team maybe. So,
yeah. So we were joking. I was like, I know, because I watched Game 7.
Right.
It was the only game I could watch because I don't have NBA TV. that, oh yeah, I was like, right. There's two Wagner brothers. There's Greg Anthony. Shout out Knicks legend Greg Anthony, his son Cole Anthony. So they have some players. They're young. They're going to be dangerous. But yeah, I don't know anything
either
about
way,
them.
I think that's a good reason why we shouldn't dive so deep into those games.
All right, so let's move on.
Yeah.
Denver, Minnesota, game one. Obviously, Minnesota took that. Watching that game, we noticed real brief that, Ant was not going to let the altitude prevent him from dropping 40 and leading them to a win.
It's not about altitude, it's about attitude.
Right. But you could see it, like, going in the second quarter, hands on hips, he was breathing hard.
Yeah.
He even said, like, it's hard. And they've always talked about it. It is 100% a thing for a lot of people. And that's what I texted you during it going, if this ends up being a problem for him, it won't be next season because he'll spend his offseason in Denver training.
That's the
in that.
attitude part,
Yes.
though. Like, yeah, it
That's
might
how
have
he is.
affected him, but he's going to fight through it, right?
Yes.
Like, Ant's not going to let the altitude beat him. So,
Right.
But yeah, either way, obviously, I think that's a small part of what happened in that game. There was, there's a lot, man. And I want to give a quick shout out to the refs because a big part of that game was that technical. And I don't say it's a big part, but it's what people are talking about. Like, Ant got teed up for staring at KCP, Caldwell Pope, on the other team. He basically just stared at him after a bucket and got teed up. And it was one of the, it got rescinded by the NBA the next day because it was one of the softest calls of all time. So I wanted to give props to the refs in the Suns Timberwolves series for not teeing up Ant every time he flexed on KD and Bradley Beal because he did it a lot.
Yes, he did. and that's part of the game. Like, it wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't like that stare. And I'm going hair quotes here because that stare down it was not much of a stare down. He looked at him. He didn't, like you said, he didn't flex on him. He just kind of was like, that just happened.
Yeah. And you know what?
Went off. And when they blew the whistle, I was also like, are they calling a technical on him? And he walked away for a while like, what? Wait a minute. Oh, on me? Oh, what are we talking about? Like, how are we doing that?
Dude,
and like
my
you said,
my NBA group chat blew up, dude. Like, everyone was like, what is going on? But like, yeah, and again, KCP, he's a Georgia guy, right? Like, they both went to the University of Georgia. Like, Ant calls him his big brother, right? And Ant always talks about, like, with his friends. And I think there might even be a quote, like, specifically about KCP. Like, that's my brother, but when I play him, I want to kill him. I want to, kill him's probably the best way to describe that. But either way, like, he is, because Ant is a killer. So that's his friend, and he goes hard against his friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that, and I think we're going to continue to see that for a while because some of these guys, like, they've, because of AAU, because of, the hype that these kids get young, when they're in high school and stuff like that, they've played either with each other or against each other a lot of times. So either they go to the same camps and they build a rivalry, like they just don't like each other, or they're friends. But like you said, if you have that killer instinct, that Kobe instinct, that Mamba mentality, the MJ mentality,
you want to beat your friends that much more,
destroy them.
Yeah.
He's got that, and it's nice to see again. And we saw this. We talked about this. What was it, last year before? And they were talking about load management, and he was calling out like all the old heads in the NBA, like. I don't know about what are we talking about.
That's when
management.
you first fell in love with him.
I was like, yes, exactly. Because he's like, that's a throwback. That's a throwback guy that could play in any era.
And all he's done is continued to
Yes.
prove that he's a throwback.
And he even said it in the press conferences, like how much he worked on his game in the offseason. Like, it's not just a job. It's like, it is life. He is so much involved in it. And the sky is literally the limit for this young man.
100%.
See? This young man. All right, so on this side of the break, we're going to finish up because there's a lot to talk about with the NBA, obviously, and everything else. You guys are listening to KDUS 1060 Phoenix, home of NAU football. Go Lumberjacks. I know I said ASU baseball, but you know what was good? It's good. ASU baseball is good. They got a lot of stuff going on. And, of course, us, James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, make sure you guys come on back.
Welcome back to James Out West on KDUS 1060.
Thank you, CJ. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us into the night. James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, KDUS 1060 Phoenix. Beautiful night in the Valley. Wrapping up the second game of round 2 tonight. Obviously, the Knicks won earlier, and right now the Minnesota Timberwolves are smacking around the Denver Nuggets. They're up 20 in the second quarter.
Yep.
And
I guess Jokic didn't get that clone, huh?
Yeah, without Rudy Gobert, who's out because of the birth of a son. So congratulations to
that's pretty
the
impressive.
big Frenchman. Hopefully everybody's happy and healthy, and his team might get a victory without him, and that would be a big statement. So
and Cat's going to the line right now. Yeah,
right
amazing.
on. So, all right, man,
I say we talk more Timberwolves.
bring it up.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot going on with the Timberwolves. After the Game 1 win against Denver, they went up in the odds to win the West like crazy. I've got it written down. Let me turn my pages real quick. Where do
Snap
I got
around
it?
Jim
Where do I
Rome
got it?
style.
So yeah, either way, so entering the season they're plus 4,000 to win the West, right? Entering the playoffs plus 900. After game 1 win versus Denver plus 215. So now if they go win this game and they're up 0-2, like, either way, they're already the odds favorite to win the West after just one win in the second round. So really impressive, says a lot about this team and what people think of them. They Kat said everyone wants to talk about our big 3, but it's about we have a big 15. And it really does seem that way, man. Like this team they've got the athleticism, they got the size, they got the defense, they got the shooters, they got Ant with the killer instinct, they got the vets. Like it's a big 15.
Absolutely. Well, and who's responsible for a lot of that 15 on both sides is Tim Connolly. When he was with Denver, bro, he drafted Jokic, he drafted Murray, he drafted MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., and he traded for Aaron Gordon. When he's with Minnesota, he traded for Rudy. He traded for Connolly. He traded for Nickeil Alexander Walker. Like,
nice.
He made the play. Like, he's got his fingerprints all over the series. And look at all these guys are impactful.
Yeah.
All these guys. So it's like, it's interesting to see that and know that he also understands all their games, like, and be able to provide that kind of that information and that leadership to, here's why. Obviously, they know that they look at film, but a little bit more information is always helpful. And you're right. They go so deep. I mean, like we talked about it, Naz Reid, you would think from the crowd reaction, he's an MVP candidate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Speaking of MVP candidates, next year, Ant Edwards will be in that conversation without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Because you said, people are making that comparison to Michael, which he doesn't want, but secretly likes. Shout out you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I was
going
going to say, man, like, Kat said, that Kat calls him the face of the league all the time. He says Ant hates it. Ant came out and said, hey, all this Michael Jordan comparisons, like, he's sick of it and wants it to stop, right? But secretly, he loves it, right? Like, he respects Michael Jordan enough to know, like, hey, I haven't accomplished anything, right? I don't have 6 rings. We can't compare him, but, like, if you're comparing his style of play and his game, there's no way he doesn't love that, right?
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I mean, I love the kid because of the respect he has. Like, again, playing the Suns and the respect and love he showed for KD was amazing to watch. Him kind of realizing that, like, it's too early to compare me to Michael. That just makes you love him more, right? Mm-hmm. His attitude after this being up 3-0 on the Suns, he was asked if he felt like they took the Suns' spirit. And he said, look, we haven't taken their spirit until we won game 4. It was very much a Kobe Bryant, the job's not done yet type quote, right? Like,
right.
So this kid is like, there's a reason people are falling in love with this kid, man. He seems like that Michael Jordan-esque, Kobe Bryant-esque type player.
Well, and you mentioned it, and we talked about it that, first the report was a player from the Suns went up to the coach at the end of the season in Minnesota and said, your team don't play very hard. Then it was revealed that it was Bradley Beal. Then you were in the press conference in which, like, Ant Edwards specifically, like, mentioned it, brought up, like, hey, this happened. It was brought up to us, and that's like, yo, other people are doing that. And then you said Steve Kerr, same thing.
Ant said, they couldn't deny it when Chris Finch came up to them and said, hey, look, one of the Suns players came up to me and said, you guys don't play hard enough for me. He noticed that you guys don't play hard enough for me. Ant took that personally, and he also said he couldn't deny it. Like, he realized we didn't play hard enough. And I think it really is kind of the spark and what made, as far as what lit the fire under this team. And I've got a lot of highlights of Ant flexing on Bradley Beal. I think he took it personally. You can tell Bradley Beal's the one who said it after, the way he played Bradley Beal, the way he embarrassed Bradley Beal, man. So Ant, when he's got a fire under him, and he's just getting better and better every game. You can see his confidence grow with every game, with every post-game interview, which are all amazing to watch. Mm-hmm. Pure entertainment. The kid has got so much charisma, so much talent. Like, you can tell he's becoming my favorite player very quickly.
So, very quickly, I'm pulling for Minnesota, Dallas, Western Conference Finals. That's what I want to see. I don't want to say OKC in it. I know they're young guys and they're fun to watch and everything, but I want to see Luka with a chance to go to the NBA Finals.
That'd be cool.
Because of how good he is and how that team is, and almost the renaissance of Kyrie Irving, going from, Cleveland jumper championship, force my way out, flat earth, yada, 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 social job, I'm not doing this, force my way out of this place, force my way out of this place.
Right.
Playing the way he's been playing all year here. versus where he played like in Boston and Brooklyn. Having that happen and seeing it and being happy for him and him knowing what it takes to win a championship, what it takes to hit a big game in a Game 7 against the best team all time. So the moment won't be too big for them. They've got coaching. Jason Kidd's done a great job for them. I know Phoenix people do not want to hear this right now.
Right.
Because of how much they disdain the Dallas Mavericks. But you got to give them what the kids say, their flowers, because they really are. That matchup will be fantastic and legitimately so gives Minnesota an absolute chance to represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals, which is incredible.
So that's
and
who you want in the
for
West.
them.
That's who you want in the West.
Yeah.
Who do you want the finals to be? If you could choose.
Oh, if I could choose, I would probably want to see Minnesota play the sneaky Knicks.
That's
I think Minnesota could beat the Knicks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And seeing the Knicks get there would be cool. Time.
You get to see Ant interact with Adam Sandler, probably.
Yeah, dude. And at Madison
Right?
Square
Yeah,
Garden,
yeah.
like, get out of here.
Oh,
and
my
and
God.
to have Madison
Dude,
Square
and
Garden
again,
have the finals.
Because of the respect that he has of the history of the sport, Ant would drop 50 in the Garden in the finals for sure.
Now, on the flip side of that, because I could pick anything, of course I'd love to see the Cavaliers there. But, I just don't.
Be realistic.
I'm being realistic. Yeah, I would love to see.
I mean, I know the Knicks are still a little bit of a stretch. One of my friends last round was like, hey, could the Knicks actually make it to the finals?
Yes.
And I was like, the Eastern Conference Finals? But with injuries and the way
it's
Jalen
shaked
Brunson's and their big three are playing, I think they all had 25-plus tonight. Like,
and then we play Boston. They play Boston to go there. I mean, the cities,
Choke
the
artists?
rivalry, the
Yeah.
history, all of it that goes into that. Like, yes, that would make a great Eastern Conference Finals and a Western Conference Finals. They have a chance to really draw a lot of ratings for these finals based on these teams and these superstars
those
they
Knicks
have.
fans, bro.
Dude, they are wild. So obviously in some other things around the NBA, like the Miami Heat, they were in the finals. They were in the NBA finals last year, right? A few years ago, they were in it as well. They've won. They've been around. They get bumped out. They had injuries, things like that. Jimmy Butler always running his mouth. I did like Pat Riley basically calling him out like, Jimmy, if you're not playing and you're on the floor, he literally goes, you should probably shut your mouth.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Pat doesn't, he gives zeros.
Yeah.
Because he's been around so long. But I like that they're all talking about
if you're not
retooling.
talking to Pat about rings, don't talk to him, right? If we ain't talking money, don't talk to me, right? Like he's that kind of guy, right?
Yep. And a lot of these teams have these decisions to make. You see what Miami's got to make some decisions. They're unsure about an extension on Butler. Clippers have to make a decision on Paul George, on Kawhi, on James Harden, on their head coach. I do believe he has one more year left on his contract, so it would be a buyout to try to get him gone. So he might still be there. They might try to run that back. You've got a lot of teams that have to make moves. How about the Milwaukee Bucks? What are they going to do? Like, was it simply just injury? I mean, they were like 35-16 when they fired their head coach.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teams that have to make moves, and that's what I do love about the NBA is that you can fix it quick. You really can, and it's been proven. And the Suns, even though they're limited in their ability to maybe make big splashes because they took swings, sometimes you miss. What is it in baseball? If you miss 7 out of 10, you're still a Hall of Famer?
Right.
Like, sometimes you miss. Well, now how are you going to recoup from that? We talked about they have the 22nd pick. Maybe it could mean something. I got dragged on the internet for saying go get Zach Edey. Half the people are telling me he's not going to get drafted, and I'm a moron. I have half the people telling me that'd be a good backup for Nurkic. Sure, I guess, backup. No, I'm running the Twin Towers. But that's, they don't have a lot of options. So they have to make this first-round pick count. And if there's anybody that they can get to come play here for league minimum is their best opportunity. And the West is going nowhere. You see it right here, this Minnesota Timberwolves team that everybody made fun of, including me, for having Cat and Rudy. Like, what are you doing? They knew what they were doing. Yeah. You have to play a team like Denver.
A defensive big man and an offensive big man.
Unbelievable. It's just so cool. And it's so great to see, man, just to see the level of basketball, the level of play, the level of competition at its all-time best right now is amazing. I'm excited for it. Pat, I know you are too. All right. You got anything else?
Oh, man.
Right on.
Thanks for
All
listening.
right. So next week, we will be in studio. We're going to we'll have a second. We might already have somebody already in the finals, in the Western or Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see. Either way, make sure you guys check us out on YouTube at The James Out West Show and JamesOutWest.com. Check out at Pat the Stat Guy on Instagram. A lot of great stuff coming out of there. Thank you as always. Make sure you guys be safe. One love.
Peace.